Our tape. Are you ready to roll there, Tim? We going? Alrighty. This is the June 12th, 2025 regular board meeting of the Ulster County Resource Recovery Agency. And we'll do a roll call. James Gordon here, Donna Egan.
Present.
Andrew Giorgi.
Present.
Erica is absent, and Mike Baden. Here. Thank you. All right, let's all stand, please, for the Pledge of Allegiance. Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't take agency staff. We'll do that afterwards. We're standing. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you.
I can mark it. I don't think it's a requirement of roll call to do that.
All righty. Just so, well, I want the people, and I want to thank our agency staff. So Mark Ryder, our executive director, is here. Timothy DeGraff is not here, but he does a very good job. Angelina Brandt,
Here.
our sustainability director. Tim Wiederman, you're also here. Thank you. Okay, so we're going to move into public comment. Please remember to identify yourself and keep your comments as short as possible. 2 minutes is about as long as we really have the time, because we have an agenda and we have a lot of things to discuss today. So are there members of the public who would like to speak? Please raise your hand. Okay, sir, would you please identify yourself?
Mike Fisher. I don't know if I signed up to speak, but
Well, you don't have to sign up, sir. You're welcome to speak.
so I'm just here to oppose the landfill on Brown Road in Ellenville. I live on Brown Road, and I think that we could probably find a much better place if a landfill is needed somewhere else. This is a lot of swampland, it's a lot of forest. It's going to affect a lot of people in the area. The dogs won't be able to drink from, places alongside the road after it rains.
Well, sir, if I may, let me interrupt you for some good news, and then if you want to continue.
Okay.
We have removed all consideration of all our past landfill sites we're not considering any site now. At a certain point in the future, we will go out and look again for a landfill, but we are not at this time considering Wawarsing or any other site for a landfill. We're going to try and move forward with zero waste and get as much out of the waste stream as we can, and then, and only then, will we go back and start looking for, a landfill, because frankly, the reality of the world is we might need a landfill. Okay?
Sure.
But thank you for your comment, and if you have anything else to add, please do, but I just want to let you know that that's where we're at right now.
Okay, thank you, that's it. Thanks so much.
Okay? Please state your name, sir.
Mike Kennel, I live on Camp Road.
Okay.
It's, there are, I believe, 8 or 9 super sites already in Ulster County. Contaminated land and everything else. There's a small one right down near Ellenville, used to be a junkyard. I don't know the dimensions of these sites, but as far as a landfill in the future, couldn't we utilize an already contaminated, unusable area instead of some pristine, beautiful place where there's an organic farm right next to Brown Road side? I mean, it just seems there's available spots if it's necessary. I believe in recycling, separation facility as opposed to a landfill. But there's other sites that are already ruined, unfortunately. Maybe that could be considered.
Thank you, sir. Ma'am, I saw you had your hand up. Please identify yourself.
My name is Madeline Phelan. I am the secretary of the Ellenville NAACP and part of the Environment and Climate Justice Committee. The chairperson of that committee is William Doster, sitting there. And, and I understand the sequence of events so far, that you have taken that off the table, so to speak. But our organization would like to go on record. Just go on record, so I'm just going to read this. So the local branch of the NAACP, the Ellenville branch, would like to go on record in opposition to the then proposed landfill in our area. We represent the oldest civil rights organization in this country. Our very mission includes advancing policies and practices that expand human and civil rights, eliminate discrimination, and accelerate the well-being of our communities. We have historically provided a voice for underrepresented groups, one of which is rural communities. The site of the then proposed landfill in an economically disadvantaged area places an even greater burden on its residents, whose voices are often lost in the legislative decisions and seeming oversight of Ulster County. These residents have no less right than others in the county to clean air and water, no less right to the avoidance of toxic chemicals in groundwater and wells, and no less right to the advantage of a rural, peaceful lifestyle for which many purchase property in the area. Environmental and climate justice is a civil rights issue. Historically, not all people have been equally impacted by the location of landfills, over 90% of which are placed in marginalized communities, including the rural poor. The NAACP Ellenville urges Ulster County to explore other options, and that's now and in the future. So thank you.
Thank you. Behind Matta, sir?
All right, John Blavel, from Brown Road, and I want to thank you for taking that off the agenda for the as a proposed site, but as a resident that's lived there 45 years, keep an eye on any future progress, and if it does come up again, I will be back. But I want to thank you for taking it off the proposal.
Okay.
Hi, Catherine Reese, Woolworthing resident. I also want to thank you. And I also want to try to use this motivation to come up with a composting facility in our town. I think there may be space available at Whitman Park, or you guys have possibly addressed this before, but let's use this community motivation to do some positive things to keep things out of the landfill. Thanks.
So I saw his hand first, sir.
Yeah, William Doster, NAACP. Just one thing I'd like to emphasize is that I talked with the Ulster County Planning Board, and things seem to have been died down. I asked them, is this thing dead? And the guy said, nothing dies. Right, so if things are laid down for a few months, most likely it's gonna come back. Maybe with different ribbons or whatever, but, I just want to throw that out there. And also the fact that for me, the emphasis is on why these things gotta be in rural places where people are and don't have a voice. Why is it always there? How come it can't be in a middle class, whatever neighborhood or landfill? So because this is what I run into since I've been on this committee. All these things are happening in places like that, so I just like to have that on record. Thank you very much for listening.
Thank you. Sir, your name?
My name is Joe Steckler. We're Worsing. I'm on the town board, and just to compliment what Poppy said, thank you for the updates. We appreciate it. Back in the fall, when Mr. Ryder came down and gave us a presentation on what was going on, the composting at Living Park was one of the ideas mentioned, and the grants available to at least offset the overhead. So, the supplies would be provided, and then we would essentially operate it. And that's something that, we should definitely revisit. Sounds like everything's, being revisited. I'm not sure how many of you are familiar with Andrew Faust. He works, this is his bread and butter. He works with Saugerties right now for this exact dilemma, trying to work with composting sites. So I know that we have the boots on the ground locally, professionals that will definitely work with this to offset, the problem soon to be crisis. So we appreciated it, and there's a lot of people down south that will for sure help out, and we're just we're a small representation of the energy, but we know it's a problem. We're here to help, and just know that there's a lot of people down there that feel the same way.
Thank you. More public comment.
Just one more thing to say. I know one of the problems dealing with garbage is getting the public to comply and to do what's best, like composting. Most people, like, look what happened in New York City, they demanded it, and it caused such an uproar. You know, oh, I have to put compostable stuff in the third bin now? How dare you? Like, so the public, I understand, is part of the problem, because they don't wanna get involved, and they don't care, you know? So, I don't know what can be done about that, advertising or whatever, but I understand the issues. I mean, garbage has to go somewhere, you know, and like I said, a separation facility and a composting facility would be fantastic. You know, there has to be some incentive for the public also. You have to dangle a carrot, you know, to get them interested, so.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Brooke Gillespie, and I'm a resident of Brown Road. I'm just gonna say thank you for taking the site off of consideration, but I want to echo everyone here by saying that we don't want any further consideration in the town of Warsing. And I think what this gentleman was just saying, that incentivizing people to change, because moving towards zero waste is really about changing our lifestyle. You know, it's a systemic change, and the only way that we can do that in mass, I think, is to incentivize things somewhat, somehow. I'm not sure. Maybe it's like, you know, I don't know exactly. We have to like brainstorm, but I think there's a lot of solutions that need to come to the table, and that people really need to be informed about what's happening, why is it a problem, how can we move forward, and what are our options, and why are these options good options, you know? There's many good options in moving towards zero waste, you know, incentivizing companies, all kinds of things across the whole county, and making Ulster County an exemplary county in, you know, in the state of New York, as New York City is like this place that everyone looks to for, you know, where does the direction of the world. Right now, New York is falling in that as far as sustainability. You know, there's many places that are far beyond New York, and New York needs to catch up. And I think Ulster County, with the excitement for doing green things and positive things for the environment, Ulster County could be like leading potentially with all of the energy, the colleges, the young people, all of the people that are making farms and all these things, that we could really push towards leading these things. And then maybe there's a county-wide incentive for more money and grants to come in to help it become more of a place for these things. Instead of moving towards landfills, let's move towards zero waste, real, true zero waste. Not zero waste with landfill, not zero waste with waste to energy, but true zero waste. Thank you.
Thank you. Going once, public comment?
Mr. Chairman, should we just recognize?
We're gonna do that, yeah.
No problem, sorry.
Okay, thank you. So, public comment is closed. Thank you all for being here, and thank you for the thoughtful comments. We've listened to you over the months, and I appreciate the thoughtfulness and, for the most part, the very, how should I put it, civil way that we approach this. Okay, and let's move on to the approval of the agenda. Does anyone on the board have any changes they would like to make on the agenda as it's listed before them?
I do. Do I need to make a motion?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, I'd like to make a motion that we discuss the agenda.
Okay.
Second.
Second.
So
Donna is moving.
I can't second.
I know. What are you
Somebody
second.
needs to second.
Does you have to make a motion to do that, or just to propose a change? I think you can just make the motion to propose the change.
You really have to open it for discussion, but okay. So I just want to make sure a few things are covered. They are probably going to be covered in your executive director's report, but I want to just make sure that they are. Is the MRDC meetings that we've been talking about for months and months and months. I want that covered. I proposed a goals update. I do believe last month we talked about that would be in July, but I just want to update that and confirm that's going to be in July. And then I would also like to see a permit, update for the composting expansion project as well as mattresses.
Is that all in your executive director's report?
The MRDC wasn't, but I'll have it.
Okay, all right.
Thank you.
So why don't we just put that, rather than change the agenda, we'll
That's
just put
fine,
that.
yeah, that's fine.
Okay, all right. Any, so any changes therefore to the agenda? If not, I'll, accept the motion to approve the agenda as before you.
I'll make that motion.
Okay, second?
I'll second it.
Okay, great. All in favor of approving the agenda? Aye. Okay, opposed? Abstained, no? Okay, great. So Mike moved it and Donna seconded it.
No, Andrew.
Andrew.
Oh, Andrew, okay, thank you. All right, so now the approval of the minutes for the May 8th, 2025 regular board meeting. I looked at it, I didn't see anything objectionable. Anybody see anything that needs changing in the minutes?
Give me 1 second, because I think I might have something. No.
Yeah, I didn't realize you had a separate communications.
Yeah.
Still learning.
No, I'm good.
Yeah, good. Okay, so I'll accept the motion then to approve the minutes of May 8th, 2025.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes.
Okay, second please.
I'll second it.
All right, Donna, so Mike moved it, Donna seconded it. All in favor of approving the minutes of May 8th, 2025?
Aye,
Aye.
Aye.
I might abstain, I wasn't here, I don't know what the procedure is, but.
as long as you've read them,
As long
you
as-
can vote.
Yeah, aye.
Okay, all right. Opposed? Great, motion passes. All right, so communications and announcements. The next regular board meeting is scheduled for July 10th, 2025 at 6:15 PM. And we also have a zero waste committee tentatively scheduled for 5:15 on that same day. So watch the website, and we will announce whether or not we'll go forward. We're scheduling it, and then we'll see, if events warrant, then we will certainly have a meeting.
Mr. Chairman, I got a question. What could be a possibility is, because we talked before about the meetings, making both meetings, is making the meeting for the solid waste like at 6:30,
Zero waste.
yeah, at 5:30 or something. And then instead of saying that the regular board meeting starts at 6:15, we say it starts immediately after, at 6:15 or, well, let's say,
6:30.
well, I wouldn't say
No,
no, we
time.
don't.
Just have it start immediately after the, like they do with the legislature. They just say that the meeting is gonna start immediately after
But
the.
they give a time and then they say, or immediately following,
Yeah,
and
that's
that
what I mean,
is,
yeah.
but that's to give them leeway in case the meeting before goes over.
Oh, okay,
Under.
all right.
So you
Yeah.
can't really start it before.
Okay.
Yeah. The earliest I could ever be here is probably 5:45 anyway.
Why don't we leave it the way it is for
Yeah,
now?
leave it the way
We
it
have a
is.
full
Just
board.
wanna
We
make
can
it secret.
discuss, okay, all right, and thank you for that. So communications and announcements, you wanna
So
start with
yeah,
that?
I received a letter via email earlier today and printed it out for all of you. It is from Supervisor Houck of the town of Warsing. In the letter, he just requests that, well, first off, he talked about acknowledging the good work of zero waste and other things, but he's basically saying if the agency is committed to not citing a landfill in Warsing, they would appreciate a clear and demonstrated commitment. Essentially asking for a resolution. That is not something that I would recommend the board doing. We do have a resolution taking the landfill off of the 5-year capital project plan, and if there becomes a time in the next 5 years where we would add it back on, we could do that. Again, the goal is to look at what we can divert through these alternative methods and the things that we're already doing, expanding our composting processes and reuse and other things. And then in a few years, taking a look at it, our big trigger, I believe, is gonna be in 2040 when Seneca Meadows is scheduled to close, regardless of where we're taking our waste, because we only have basically the end of this year and then 3 more 1-year extensions before we have to go out to bid for landfill again. And so it could not be Seneca. But when Seneca closes, the amount of capacity that they will be taking, like that will disappear from the state, and the amount that's gonna disappear each year, because each year New Yorkers send about 10 million tons of waste inside New York to New York landfills. We're the #1 exporter of waste in the country, and we're the #1 incinerator of waste in the country, but we also send 10 million internally to New York State landfills. There's a total capacity of 150 million, and right now 150 million tons lifetime of all of the landfills that exist in New York State. We send about 10 million a year. So that's 15 years. When Seneca goes to, that's a large capacity. Even if there's a few large facilities that are expanded, that's going to get more expensive. It's gonna take about 10 years to construct and permit a landfill, so my recommendation is by about 2030. We have an idea of where that is, whether it is regionally with a partner, a bordering county, or, we will look there first, and we will start to do that work over the next year or two, identifying partners, because we may be able to take some compost and food waste from a county, and they may take different portions. We may patchwork that, something like that together. But I don't think we should take any specific town or area off. One of the things that was discussed by the public is personal responsibility and incentives to really change things to get to zero waste. If we remove the town of Plattekill or we remove the town of Warsing, what incentive is that to make changes in lifestyle? I think that what we should be doing is committing to a clean slate and not just taking the Cornerstone study and starting over that we are pre-diagnosed to go to Milk Road and Brown Road. I think we should start over with a brand new study. We should have the entire county and preferably region, other counties first, and then really go through a full feasibility study and pinpoint one area, one location that is feasible. That's my recommendation. I'm happy to send a letter back similar to that, recognizing that the board is just receiving this tonight and I just received this today. I think we should put it on the agenda for the next board meeting and discuss it a little further, but it is a communication.
Did you all get to read it? Okay. So what do you, about Mark's plan, you wanna just hold a discussion for next month? I'd like to have Erica here also, so why don't we?
Let's vote for it for a moment.
Well, it's not
It's not
a matter of postponing
Yeah.
because
Well,
we're not
Well, we
under any
weren't really
obligation.
discussing
You
it.
I just wanna-
decide.
I just wanna
But
get to a full
But to
discussion.
discuss it,
We're
absolutely.
moving on to other things.
Yeah, let's put it on the agenda for discussion next month.
Yeah, okay, that's great, thank you. Do we have any other communications that, you wanna bring to people's attention, no? Okay. All right, so we'll move on to general reports then. So the recycling, program update is tops of the list. Are you ready?
Thank you, Chairman. In May, we celebrated International Compost Awareness Week, or ICAO, which is an initiative of the Compost Research and Education Foundation with the goal of raising public awareness about the benefits of compost. And this year, the theme of ICAO was Sustainable Communities Begin with Compost. Our recycling educator, Eva Barnett, created a new initiative to partner with local libraries to celebrate ICAO this year. Eva created a compost-themed book list and circulated it to participating libraries who used that list and other educational resources that we provided to set up a composting-themed book display that was up for the month of May at 10 participating libraries. And of the 10 that participated in the book display, 7 of them also offered educational workshops. We focused our efforts on some youth programming in partnership with Olive and Stonebridge libraries, and then we reached out to local composting companies with an invitation to help teach some of those other classes for adults. Addie Smock delivered a workshop at the Kingston Library, and speakers from Greenway Environmental delivered talks at New Paltz, Stonebridge, Plattekill, Rosendale, and Cragsmore libraries. On social media, we highlighted all the various ways to compost in Ulster County, quotes from the local composting community, planting instructions for how to use finished compost and the benefits to soil health, and other key messages. And beyond Compost Awareness Week, our recycling outreach team responded to 178 phone calls in May And we completed 8 other outreach events in partnership with Crosby Elementary School, the Shandaken Conservation Advisory Committee, the Pine Hill Community Center, the Kingston Farmers Market, the Lifetime Learning Institute in New Paltz, and the City of Kingston Earth Fair. And these programs reached approximately 373 adults and 140 children through 77 hours of direct community engagement, plus an additional 60 adults who went to those iCow classes. There were 87 customers at our annual compost bin and rain barrel sale, which we consider a very good success. Our spring advertising campaign continued with a feature promoting the agency compost sales. We sold 537 bags of compost in the month of May. And at our Saturday electronics collection program, we saw 330 drop-offs in the month of May. We distributed 13 media kits requested by the Last Frost Festival, Green Sheen Paint Recycling, Don't Run Apartments, and all those libraries I mentioned. And we're also promoting our next household hazardous waste collection event. So we're still accepting appointments for that event, which is going to take place on Sunday, June 22nd, right here in Kingston. Lastly, as we enter the month of June, our focus is shifting now to celebrating National Waste and Recycling Workers Week, which is an official holiday that used to be called Garbage Man Appreciation Day. We reached out to each town with an invitation to promote our survey, asking local residents, what do you love most about your local town transfer station? And in total, we received 83 responses from 8 towns that actively participated. And I'm gonna go ahead and pass around a copy of those responses. I can send them digitally as well, maybe easier to browse through them. But there are clear themes in the responses that we collected. Residents are echoing that these facilities are well organized, very clean, very convenient, they're affordable alternatives to curbside collection, and that the staff are always friendly and extremely helpful. So Eva and I are gonna digest these quotes. We'll collect up to 6 per town from the towns that have participated and turn that out on our social media pages in June to celebrate National Waste Workers Week. And with that, I'm happy to answer any questions.
I think this is good information. I want to take a look at this. I appreciate this. Thank you for collating this. It could be useful because as we try and create more composting, more recycling, more diversion, to know what works is a very useful thing to have. So I appreciate that. Board have any questions?
And we will send it electronically so you can
So I don't have
enlarge
to
it.
squint at it?
You can zoom in and all that.
Okay, thank you, Joanne. Okay, are you gonna pinch it for Tim?
I am.
Okay, so we have our MSW tonnage report and our recycling tonnage report, and our MRF cost center analysis, and Tim's report brought to us by our executive director tonight. Take it away, Mark.
Yeah, so as far as our MSW tonnage report, our tonnage for the month of April was 8,399 tons, which was 642 tons less than our target. Our C&D tonnage for the month of April was 3,327, which was 313 more than our target. So the total tonnage for the month of April, 11,726 tons, was still 329 tons less than our target. Our year-to-date total tonnage is 41,053, which is 3% off our target, 1,271. So now that we have, again, this is through April, 4 months in, this is giving us a pretty good vision that next year we're going to have to reduce the amount of tons that we're targeting in our budget. We are seeing an off, this is the second year in a row that we're not hitting those budgeted tons. On top of that, if some of our goal is diversion, I think we should also be looking at lowering, by 2026, we should be doing some of the work of diverting more through reuse, through expanded composting, through other means. So it's likely that when we bring you all a budget, instead of 142,000 tons, we're down in, I don't know, guess right now, but let's say 137, 138. Yeah.
I think question there is May through August. I know from the local transfer stations, May through August jumped up exponentially, actually.
They do.
Yeah.
but
But it looks like you.
in our
Your
targets,
target each month, you've
it goes up
already,
and down,
you've already,
accounted.
accounted for that,
Yeah.
yeah, so, okay, I'm just.
So we're even off of our lower targets for January through.
Well, it looks like we're off by about 300.
Great.
1271 total, 3%.
Oh, counting the C and D.
Year
Yes,
to
I'm
date,
sorry.
including.
Just looking at the MSW, yeah, counting the C and D.
Yeah, and down here, MSW is both MSW and C and D. It's combined. So if you go down to year to date,
Yeah,
you'll see
got it.
42,000 was our target, 41,000,
Yeah.
so 1,000.
So it's 1,200, yeah, 12,000.
I mentioned this before, but is there any way we can use a different term besides target? Because it sounds like we're trying to have this goal of having, and then when we don't meet our target, that's a good thing, right? In a lot of ways, I know financially, and this is a financial report, but it just, to me, it's messaging.
Could we call it budgeted instead of
Budgeted
targeted?
instead of targeted or
Yeah,
something, because
Anticipated?
anticipated
Yeah.
something.
Yeah.
It just sounds wrong that we are trying to meet this goal that it's contrary to our objectives.
Let me circle with.
Because it's a financial.
It's a
yeah.
financial
Right.
report, and we get that, but it's just,
I get you. Let me circle back with Tim and we'll talk it through and I'll ask him to think of other ways to,
it's gonna be
Different
tough. He's been speaking that for years,
know.
but, so.
we'll look at it.
Yeah.
And the recycling tonnage report?
Yeah, I think all of these need to be accepted, right? Typically, we
I
ask.
think we do it at
for-
the end.
Okay.
Okay.
Alright. So recycling tonnage report, our total MRF related recycling, which is commingled glass, news, Kingston News, OCC is down 38 tons, or 2.2%. The MRDC and Kingston recycling is down 4.2%, which correlates with the decrease of volume for MSW, which was 6%. So.
Would have been great if the MSW was below, because
But
it was
it's
going to
not. It's in
recycling.
line.
It's,
Yeah.
yeah, unfortunately.
It's actually even, right,
Yeah.
4.2 down on recycling,
Why,
6%.
do we know why?
Why it's like slightly less? I mean, no, I don't have a good reason. Any questions on anything in that report?
And then, so let's move on to the MRF cost center analysis.
So the MERC cost center analysis. So our total sale of recyclables for the month of April was $29,720 worth. Our total cost for residuals and glass recycling was $6,875. Remember, that is a cost. So 1 month we tried to find a facility that would pay us for glass. We took 2 loads down there. Remember, this is glass that we're receiving from the MRDCs. So this is not residual glass. That just has to be paid for recycling no matter what. This was supposed to be cleaned from the town MRDCs. After 2 loads, they said it was too contaminated and they wouldn't accept it. So now we're back to paying for glass recycling.
Good topic for your meeting coming up in July,
Which one?
the MRDC
Yes.
meetings.
Net revenues for the month were $22,845. Total personnel operating costs for the month were $73,000. These costs were higher due to furnace/AC repairs and sorting line repairs, belt replacements, which were $25,000. The net loss for the month of April, $50,236. The year-to-date net loss is $106,094. At the same time last year, our net loss was $62,571. Again, a lot due to this year was due to some of those repairs and replacements. Current market conditions aren't terrible, but they're not great. You will notice that there's a couple of things. So, sales on recyclables are very sporadic. So our residential mixed news and our OCC, we typically have enough of that to sell every month. In the month of April, we essentially didn't sell anything else, which is why there's loss. You'll notice that in the month of January, we had $41,000 that we sold as far as plastic, right? 7,000 in the month of February, and then nothing the last 2 months. If you look at the back of this page, you'll kind of see the graph that shows where the pricing is and where the market is. Any other questions on the MERP costs?
Just for ha-has, do you know off the top of your head if a tractor trailer baled plastic is worth what? About, like, what does 41,000 represent? How many tractor trailers?
I
Don't know.
totally
It's
random.
resin,
Wait,
but
does there
depends
right?
on the resin, but it's ranging right now between like 4 cents per pound up to like 28 cents per pound. We'll usually sell like 50,000 pounds at a time, but we don't generate that much plastic recycling. It's very lightweight, and so that's why we'll sell maybe 1 or 2 loads throughout the year, and we'll hear very frequently.
Thank you. Mr. Chair, I got a question. The equipment maintenance, you said the belts, they replace the belts. Is that something you do like pretty much every year, every couple of years, every
No,
6 months?
Broke.
I mean, these were more repairs, and there was AC and furnace repairs. So, I mean, obviously belts you're replacing on a regular basis, some things, but these were more costly repairs and expensive.
Than normal, yeah,
Correct.
that's what I meant.
Especially around the AC. I think the AC was down in the MERP for a week or more. Luckily, it wasn't in a time that was extremely hot, but like we had to get somebody in there. It gets too hot in there. It's a metal building, and we had to make those significant repairs.
Are you conditioning the whole space or just office space?
The whole space.
They,
You couldn't work in a metal building otherwise. It's expensive, but.
that's something they added, that wasn't there when they first put it in, but I remember, I was down there, it was hot.
I don't think we necessarily have to accept those.
Just the
I think it's just the financial.
treasurer's
report.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say, so why
Let's
don't we
move on to the monthly treasurer's report. Our revenue line items to note, we have miscellaneous revenues of 60,679. Those were higher than normal due to a workers' compensation refund of a premium policy for the policy year 7/1/23 to 7/1/24. This represents 50% of our premium, so we got basically $48,000 back just in that rebate. Which is the bulk of that miscellaneous revenues, right? Our total revenue for the month of April was $1,921,474. Our expense items to note, MERP operations, 30,029, replace the furnace condensing unit, coil, and sorting line repairs, belt replacements. Composting operations, we had 35,384 in expense, replaced belts, repairs to the hydraulic stacker. And then in April, we also had a HHW cleanup day, $34,240. That was the new Pulse event. We also had transportation system costs of $10,773, which was our annual waste transporter permits. Our total expenses for the month of April were $1,838,320. Our net operating revenue for the month of April and our surplus was $83,154. We now have a year-to-date surplus of $115,448. When compared to the same point last year, has improved by 1.5 million, 277,000 is 100% debt service.
Into that.
Question on this, and just because of being new, obviously the revenues is a combined of our commercial and our municipalities. Is there any, and this is more curiosity than any reason other than I'm asking it, is there any breakdown within our books where we differentiate the revenue between what revenue comes from, from the MRC? I want to get the right term.
MRDCs.
MRDC, thank you.
So when you look at our poll charges,
Mhm.
those are all the poll charges to the towns for hauling. right?
Okay,
So in the month of April, we had $17,385,000 in toll charges.
Toll charges.
Now, the tipping fees, they're charged the same tipping fee as anybody else. We do, and do you not? There is a report that has the haulers and the tonnages. Did it go? No.
I don't remember ever seeing that one. The individual haulers or just the?
It has
the
haulers,
aggregate?
it has towns, maybe
I
it's
don't
not
I don't think
something
they were.
that.
I don't think we get
Yeah.
It's something that I could provide from time to time because in it, we have the town MRDCs and you can see the tonnages. So it's definitely something that we track
Mhm.
and we have on a separate line. We're just not providing.
It's just a curiosity, because I realize the MRDCs are a very small percentage of our total.
About 6% on
Yeah,
average.
and I realize that, but it just, for my mindset, we deal with them an awful lot, and it would just be nice to sort of see a comparison of percentages and maybe not so much, number to number, but percentages, and I knew that 6%, because I've heard you say it often, so.
So,
But I don't know if.
yeah,
And I'm not necessarily asking for it to be in the report, but I was just curious if it was tracked independently, so.
so one thing that I will add is when you look at our MERC cost center analysis, when we say we have a year-to-date net loss of 106,094, that is 99% attributable to the MRDC
Understood.
because we do not charge for recycling,
Right.
and that is pretty much almost exclusively who brings recycling
Understood.
to our roof. But yes, I can get you those other numbers and we can take a look at them and we run them reports and I'm saying every month, but if you, especially as treasurer, if that's something that you wanna take a look at.
Well, and I freely admit it's not totally formulated in my head, but I think as we look to diversion and how we go about it, those numbers will help us to identify potential methods. And I don't have any answers yet, but I'm just thinking those are numbers I would want to know in my head, because I know we've thrown out many different ideas, like potentially having flow control for recyclables, and so having that data,
It's the term I was gonna use, more data.
it just
Yeah,
helps.
and so we are getting ready and we'll have a resolution to you in July about next year's Climate Smart Communities grant that we're applying for in consultation, but I'll give you an example of where we use that data. So we're working with the county because they are the ones that are eligible to apply for the Community Smart Communities grant.
Yep.
And I think, regardless, next year, we should be budgeting for this, and if we get the grant money, great, but this is, expanding compost at the towns, I think is something the board all agrees should happen. And even if we don't get the grant, I think we should move forward. We're able to see, okay, how many tons of waste comes in from Rochester, Plattekill, wherever. Okay, we know that roughly 22%, 20% of that is food waste. So what size container are we budgeting for if we wanted to divert all of that food waste there? And so we've kind of done some of those numbers. Tim has it in his application from last year. So those are all numbers we have.
That's fine, I didn't mean to take us,
It's okay.
So we will
it's
need,
just,
Yeah, so let's, all right, so I'll accept the motion, any other questions on the treasurer's report?
Well, just to add on that, you got 6%, but we wanna make sure that we dedicate our resources accordingly, so we have this very large amount, we just need, just adding on to what you said.
agreed,
Okay, I'll accept the motion, please, to accept the treasurer's report.
I'll make that motion.
Okay, and a second?
I'll second it.
So moved by Mike and second by Andrew. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay, thank you. All right,
want to start with the slide deck?
well, do you want to just go, do you want to do your report?
Yeah. Oh, I was gonna start with the slide deck and then do the report.
Okay, that's fine.
So, cause I just gave you this is just a brief summary and I'll go through it, but we wanted to focus on this together towards zero. Again, this was a presentation that Tim and I gave to both caucuses last month.
Give me a second.
You know, for many of the longtime board members, there's gonna be a lot in here that is not new. Again, we were doing this as an orientation to some new legislators. We also, I plan on doing, and I'll make sure that when the schedule is set, I have it all to the board members, but, would like to do 5 town hall meetings between July and August, where going out into the towns, we're doing one in Ellenville, we're doing one in Saugerties, New Paltz, Shongum, and, why am I blanking right now, but, so Shongum, New Paltz, Ellenville, oh, and I'm still trying to find a location up in like the Pine Hill, Shandaken area. So those are just in the evenings, do a presentation like this, and then take a Q&A for about a half hour, 45 minutes. And I would encourage any of you who are available to join those events, especially the ones down in your area. And I'm gonna send messages to all the local electeds in the area too, so they can come out. We're good.
I don't know.
So brief history. 1971, County Planning Board publishes a report recommending a landfill in Ulster County. 1986, the Ulster County Legislature sent a home rule request and the legislature passed the enabling statute. Our first contract with the county was 1998. We created our first materials recovery facility in 2002, and the mandatory source separation law for recycling mandatory source separation law passed in 2010. The next page. So then flow control was added in 2012. That was the last time that the agency sought a net service fee, and that was the same year that we created our organics recovery facility. By 2015, the county had banned polystyrene from food service areas. And in 2016, our organics recovery facility expanded. In 2018, the county passed the bring your own bag law. And then in 2019, a flurry of things happened. Skip the straw law went into effect. The county legislature passed their zero waste resolution, and the mandatory food scraps resolution went into effect. In 2020, we expanded to where we are today with food waste of 5,000 tons. In 2021, we were recognized as small-scale compost manufacturer of the year, and our 2020-2029 local solid waste management plan was approved. In 2023, Executive Order 1 of 23 was issued by County Executive Metzger, calling for 100% diversion of organic waste by 2030. I think we can skip the rest of these. The enabling statute. So we talk about the agency purpose, our governance process, and our agency powers. So collecting solid waste is one of our purposes, recovering by any means material and energy, and improvement of public health and welfare. We're governed by a board of directors. We are overseen by the state comptroller, the ABO, and the state legislature. The county may adopt laws and amend local laws regarding collection, receiving, transporting, delivering, or storing waste. We have the powers to acquire property, enter into contracts, and borrow money. This is our mission statement. I'm not going to read it out loud, but it's on there. Our vision statement is, and this is a vision statement that we're really just starting to talk about now and want to develop with the board. So we're aiming to achieve a zero waste future, which is diverting 30% of our waste by 2030, 60% by 2040, and 90% by 2050. So waste generation is minimized at its source. Reuse, recycling, composting are prioritized to keep materials in circulation. Human health and ecosystems are protected. Resource consumption is balanced with planet's capacity, and materials that cannot be managed by any other way are discarded responsibly.
Next is our organizational chart. We have some recent accomplishments, which are major repairs at our transfer station floor. Recently, the DC signed off on our 22-23 biennial update. We're moving the landfill. So developed a new 5-year capital plan and 2025 mission, goals, and performance plan. And we're continuing to work on our compost expansion and mattress recycling. Our biggest challenges, repeated turnover and lack of consensus around future vision. So that goes in, executive directors have changed in a relatively short amount of time. I think I'm the 4th in 5 years. There has been quite a bit of turnover on the board as well. Constraint on the ability to issue debt for capital improvements, investments. Revenue model incentivizes waste generation and not reduction or diversion, which is what you were talking about, Donna. But that is our current revenue model. And then unpredictable and undeveloped markets for diverted materials. So there's a crisis on the horizon. I talked about 150 tons total of MSW capacity, landfill capacity. Million. 150 million.
Million.
So 26 active landfills, but only 6 have enough for our waste. Even at 250 miles, Seneca Meadows is still our best option. That's each way. They're only technically still permitted through 12/31/25, although they believe they'll get their extension. They have not received it yet. And it's possible that we will be forced to export waste further and further away at higher and higher costs. In fact, one thing that was not talked about in any of the report outs from committees, but I know, a couple board members and several staff members attended the Federation Conference of SWANA in May. The keynote speaker, basically, I think some staff members came away with the feeling that if you don't have a transfer station next to or the ability to have rail connected to your operations, at some point you're going to be really behind when this landfill capacity goes. My goal would not be to export waste, but it's one thing that we have to look at in the solid waste management plan. Something that we should be evaluating is something we should keep on the table. So this is just talking about some of the impacts of the status quo: truck traffic, CO2 emissions, leachate, landfill gas, disproportionate burdens and disadvantaged communities, and households and businesses' financial burden. This is the zero waste hierarchy that's been created by Zero Waste New York. So you see on the top, rethink, redesign, then you have reduce, then you have reuse, then recycle and compost, then material recovery, and then finally, like anaerobic digestion, which is what they're talking about with biological treatment and stabilized landfilling, and then incineration and waste energy is never acceptable as far as their hierarchy. This is what we are doing to prepare. So we talk about our 10-year solid waste management plan and the 9 goals. The zero waste implementation plan is in progress. We have a regional circular economy strategy, which is again in progress, but that's one of the things that Sustainable Hudson Valley is working on with us. Our mission roadmap and performance goals. I know this was sent to board members. I don't know that I've sent it to you, so I'll make sure that you receive that if you have not seen it. But 2025, we did goal work and setting out a mission roadmap, and this was part of this will be a living document year after year, but this was our kind of first shot at it. We also passed the 5-year capital project plan this year, 2025 to 2029. Pending removal of the countywide sanitary landfill, that is a resolution before you all tonight. Otherwise, we have these other 10 projects. Highlight a few of them: Repower project, which is also something that we'll discuss later on tonight, but the reuse pathway for zero waste and economic resilience. It builds on the county's 2023 reuse innovation study. Hub and spoke type model to facilitate collection and distribution of reusable goods. We plan on doing improvements at MRDCs, as well as construction of a hub or central warehouse. Funding challenges are likely to slow implementation. So we are now looking at about a 6.75 when we were looking at buying both 1155 and 1151. It was up to about a $10 million capital project. Our compost processing expansion. So again, that's working to do investments at the town MRDCs, expanding our own capacity from 5,000 to 10,000 tons per year, which we already have the operational capacity to do. We just need the permit.
Permit for 10,000?
No, we're going up to 70. It's at for 5 right now.
Yeah, okay.
Then we're trying to get to 7,500.
Okay, that makes more sense.
We have the space for 10,000 and the equipment. So it's just really showing, I mean, we wouldn't be able to apply from 5 to 10 because we can't show a need. We just don't have that yet. We definitely have the need to get to 7,500, which was exhibited by shutting down our operations in October of last year because we met our permit capacity. We had to turn away, starting basically September 30th, we had to turn away all food waste last year, Mike, except for we kept the counties and the city of Kingston. So that's about a $1.78 million capital project. Again, we would hope to get some funding through this Climate Smart Communities grant, but otherwise we will be putting money in next year's budget. So when this was, again, a presentation for the legislature, these are things brought up, working together towards zero, asking them to craft smart, effective local policies, strengthen organizational governance, maximizing agency effectiveness, and aligning incentives towards success. So, the maximizing agency effectiveness is really removing unnecessary boundaries in the contract. We talk about why it was important for them to eliminate the bonding cap. We go through this, we're an independent agency, the bonding cap contradicts the enacting statute. No net service fee means no county obligation, and overriding the cap would require supermajority. Any questions on that?
That's an excellent presentation. What kind of questions did you get from me? What were the concerns or the points or
Yeah.
anything?
So it was unfortunate because it was a very busy night and we had gone in there with the expectation to have about a half hour with each caucus. So I think that's about a 15 to 20 minute presentation when I was doing it there. And I only had about 20 minutes with each one. The Democrats went into executive session, which pushed everything back. And so I only had about 20 minutes in the Democratic caucus. And then I was already essentially half hour late to the Republican caucus because of that. They were stacked back to back and they had another 20 resolutions. Like caucus is right before the regular meeting. So there was not a lot of questions that came out of those caucuses. I mean, correct? Yeah. But again, we plan on tweaking this slightly and then presenting them it at the town boards and then or the town hall events, and then having about 40 minutes for a Q&A period and hearing people's concerns. Yeah.
Do you, and I'm not sure I know the answer, so but they always say don't ask a question you don't know the answer to. Do you think that would be a valuable presentation to make to the county planning board? You know what the county planning board does. It's one representative of every community when they show up.
Right.
We've got an inside track to
Let
get
me
on the
talk to
agenda.
Dennis. Yeah, let me talk to Dennis and see if he, let me share this with him and see if that's something he thinks would be worthwhile on the agenda. I do actually.
Well, I could,
You're on that, right?
I'm the chair. So
Right.
I could add it to the agenda.
If you
But I wanted to
think-
ask
if you
your
think it
opinion
would
if
be
you thought it would be valuable. I think it would, but but I don't know if, the people you're talking to are probably people that are gonna be very interested in this, but whether they're communities, then there's not, unfortunately, there's not a lot of back and
jurisdiction
forth.
either.
Yeah, there's not a lot of back and forth.
I'm happy to do it.
Okay.
Anytime
If
we
you
can get
think-
out there. and
If you think it would be
brag about
helpful
Let me
to,
bounce it off Dennis and see, cause
Okay.
we have a section called, special topics.
Yeah.
This,
if you think it would be helpful,
okay.
I'm happy to do
I'm
it.
just trying to think how to get it out there more, cause it is a good presentation.
Yeah, it's great, and polish our image a little bit, sorry.
When, it's okay, when, you're the chair of the county planning board?
Right, from,
Okay.
until the end of the year.
When, okay, well, the county is supposed to review any apartment buildings that have over 5 units, correct? Planning board?
No, it depends on what, there's certain criteria that trigger it, but not.
Well, whatever,
Yeah.
they say it triggers it.
Yeah.
Do you discuss recycling at all, and space for recycling for the dumpster?
Space, yes, we don't have, policy and
No, I-
operations, we don't have any.
Because I haven't, when I was on the board 5 years ago, one of the things we pushed for the county was to, when they reviewed that, to make sure that they put in the space for it and
Yep.
different stuff. And my interaction with the county a couple of years ago, before I was even on the board, I was talking to the planning board about something, I asked them about that, and the lady said, and I don't know who she was, she said, no, we don't do anything like that.
No, that's
Yeah.
one, that's actually on our checklist is not specifically for recycling, but waste and recycling together and dumpster location.
Okay, okay.
And, yeah, it's
Yeah.
definitely on our checklist. So,
So I was gonna give them all the
Yeah.
information, thank you.
yeah, but the operation of it, how they sort it and everything, we only get involved in the land
Yeah,
use
okay.
part of it,
So
so.
one thing I would
Well, I'll
request,
think
knowing
about it,
that,
yeah.
that gets triggered, when it does get triggered, if there's a way that the county planning board could send Robert a notice of like, this was just approved, because any multifamily over 5 units is required to have on file with us a recycling plan,
Okay.
and we just don't always know when new things come up. So I'll give you
That
another
we can try to
example.
make happen.
I'm going to the town supervisors meeting, I go every month, but I'm going this month because Charlie brought something up. We are starting to see a lot of fairly larger scale construction and demolition debris projects. So I'm gonna ask the town supervisors that when they give demolition permits, I don't know, and maybe you know this as a former town supervisor, if there's any kind of waste plan, like where they're going to send their construction and demolition debris. And if there is, if UCRRA is named, if we were to get, the towns were to provide us notice of that so that we can go review the site, because we're getting loads in and we have our scale house now at both sites, stopping, looking, trying to see what's in the loads, because we've had a couple loads where people come in and dump, and buried in the middle could be asbestos, could be other things. And we turned a lot of stuff away because we, again, don't have flow control with CND debris.
Mhm.
So we don't want to accept waste that we're not allowed to accept. So that's something that I'm raising with the towns. As far as like anything over 5 units, that would be helpful for us to know if there's a new.
Yeah, well, we can, any multi-family projects that come to us, we could certainly, we have recognition of it, so.
Okay.
yeah, absolutely. We could.
Can I just add something? John just put in 78 apartments right across from town hall. And when I went to the town board meeting, I looked over and they had a dumpster there, and I spoke to the board about it, saying, and that was last month, and then, or 2 weeks ago, in the next meeting, I didn't say anything to them, but they hadn't done anything. Just, nothing.
I'll send Robert.
Robert, yeah,
Robert should know that.
Yeah, that's a
If
huge.
they just built that, again, anything over 5 units is supposed to have a recycling
Big,
plan.
yeah, it's big.
Yeah, it's right next to the town hall. And I haven't even finished it yet.
I mean, it was proved quite a while ago.
7 or 8 years ago.
So on your checklist, could you say if yes, notify the agency? Is there some way to formalize it, so when you're gone, move on, it's in there?
Yeah, well, I'll work with the planning department to try to make sure.
Dennis.
Yeah. Rob, it's Rob, so, yeah.
I'll just run through this really quickly because it's pretty
Yeah.
short. So stakeholder meetings, again, I mentioned the SWANA Federation Conference. I had to leave to give that presentation several days early, but I did think there was a lot of informative sessions and it was an excellent opportunity for staff and board members to network. On Tuesday and Wednesday this week, I traveled to Albany to advocate for the Packaging Reduction and Recycling Infrastructure Act. I went with Beyond Plastics and we were meeting with assembly members that we pulled off the floor. The legislation definitely has the votes to pass. It's just whether leadership is gonna put it on the floor. It's stuck in Ways and Means. I mean, there's resolutions that are brand new that are flying through Ways and Means and this is stuck. So that doesn't bode well for it. I will give you a heads up on one resolution that went through and I believe I need to follow up, but I think was gonna pass both houses today, which could impact us, and that is banning the agricultural use of biosolids, and it's not just direct treatment, it's also a 5-year moratorium on the sale or use of compost that used biosolids in process. So we take our biosolids and sewer sludge to Denali, they compost it and I believe they sell it.
So that won't be allowed?
That
anymore?
would not be allowed anymore because of PFAs and PFAS. It goes into effect 60 days. It's possible that Denali is just using it as landfill cover, but I know they use that for some of it, but I also believe they're using it for, so they may not want it. We may have to find, the goal of the moratorium is to really send these biosolids to a landfill, which is gonna add 375,000 tons
Yeah.
to dwindling capacity. I think there was some good intentions in the bill, but I don't know if there was enough conversation with folks like us. I didn't even see it until today. Like daily, I'm going on the Ways and Means agenda to see if PRE is on there, and it's not. I'm like, what's this one? And then I'm like, oh, maybe it doesn't have a chance to pass the Senate. And then I see that, you know, some of our local, like there's people on sponsors that makes me think it's definitely gonna pass. So, we'll know more in the next week or so. Leachate collection, so I spoke with SCS today. They said they will have their report to us in 2 weeks and that they should be ready to present at the July board meeting. Right now, they're just finalizing, they're getting different quotes for pricing so that they can give us a good financing. Repower, the Reuse Innovation Center will discuss in executive session. County contract will discuss in executive session. There's 2 resolutions related to agency council tonight. If the board approves these resolutions, Nancy will begin work tomorrow with an orientation. She's ready to start her first day tomorrow, and then that will mean that Monday doesn't have to be sent on orientation, she'll just be right into it. Permit modifications, again, we've now submitted everything, including the enhanced public participation plan. It took a little while longer for our engineers to submit that than I would have liked, but we are waiting word back from the DC. I know, I believe Andrew was gonna reach out to the DC, not this Andrew. Andrew, our engineer was gonna reach out to the DC tomorrow, I believe, if we hadn't heard back. And I will as well.
Fire under that guy.
Then I extended the deadline. The deadline was gonna be tomorrow for the diversion and alternatives. RFP, I had several proposers ask for an extension. They asked for 3 weeks, but that put us at July 4th, so I extended it to July 11th. But I've received several bid intent letters and we had walkthroughs. We had about 10 companies represented at the walkthroughs. And I think we could probably get 5 to 8, 5 to 10 proposals, I have to guess.
It's pretty good, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
I think there will be some viable options too, because I've had, you know, before the RFP, I had a lot of meetings with potential, like whatever is out there, kind of just people would reach out, I would reach out to folks and have meetings and think there's some interesting options. Not necessarily things that are being done here, definitely not like burning, I mean, there is one that's biogasification that I think we'll propose, but again, they can show no emissions, they use heated sand. So we'll see. And again, like a material recovery facility for mixed waste is also. That's my report.
Oh, well, you had a couple things you promised to
Oh,
cover.
I did. So MRDC meetings, I'm still waiting. We have the date. Well, do you remember?
Monday, July 13th.
Monday, July 13th, we've reserved on our calendars. I'm still waiting to hear back from Supervisor Parity to see if Marbletown is available. We have a morning/early afternoon in Marbletown, and that same day, we're meeting in the evening here. So we heard board members request to do one here. So we're doing one here, and then we still want to hold one that same day in Marbletown. We're just not, we're missing each other.
That was July 13th?
July
Two
14th.
two meetings. you
July
said.
14th.
Two meetings, one in the
14?
14th.
You're gonna still give them a free poll if they show up?
Yeah, finish it up. I don't want to take that away. We've already offered it.
Cool.
And you had, well, I think I covered everything else that you asked.
The permit update, so what did you say? They submitted the public, so what's the
Everything
next?
on our end has been submitted. It's done. Like, the next thing is either the DEC comes back and says,
In
you're
30
still
days,
missing
right.
your information. 90, they get 90 days to respond to everything. So it's probably been 20. They either say your application's complete and now there's a 30-day, I think the 30 days that you're thinking of is there's a 30-day public comment period. But, or they could come back and say, notice of incomplete application because this. So that's what we've gotten 3 times. I'm kind of
And
hoping
then
we're
if
at the
you
point.
update it, do they get another 90 days?
Yes.
That's what I thought.
This has
Which
been
is
like,
why
this
we're,
has been like
which
2
is why we're
years, by the
16
way.
years, we're 16 years, 16 months in. 16 months.
We've been talking about it longer than that, but yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
I mean, isn't that what they keep telling us we should be doing, and we agree, and we wanna do it, and the stuff that we're doing is really super obvious and no-brainer, and we should, that's our objectives, but there's delay. It's unfortunate.
I believe that's your report, right?
Well, and that goal, I just wanna confirm that we're gonna get a goals update next month as well.
yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. On to resolutions. Resolution number 2651, the service agreement between the Ulster County Resource Recovery Agency and Ulster County. I believe we're not going to,
Yeah, I don't think you need to move this one, and if we don't move it, it can just be postponed. I don't have any updates. It's still sitting in energy and environment.
this is the contract, and so nothing has moved since last month.
I have agreed with the chair that I would meet with legislative council and my. And so I said I was willing to do
As
that.
chair or the chair of the legislature?
Chair of the legislature, sorry. It's good.
Any major things we need to know about it that's being discussed?
But there's a necessity for it, honestly. And I mean,
Is that
you've
still
all
on the
gotten
table?
the memo. Well, we can talk more in, I think, executive session as far as bringing Billy in.
Do you want a motion to table?
Well,
I don't think we need one. I think, why
if
don't we just sit on
we
it?
didn't move it.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay, that's true.
So then moving on to resolution 2652, authorizing and approving a revised job description and payment scale for agency counsel. I believe we approved this informally at the end of the last meeting, after we met with the woman who was going to be, and I forget her name, apologize for that.
Well, until we hire her.
Right, and, right. So, well, that's, I believe, you wanna explain this? I think that's, this
We
is,
increased the pay, but increased
want-
the hours too,
We
or
went
what
to
was
30 hours.
30 hours from 20?
Do you want a motion for discussion?
Oh,
yes,
sorry.
please,
Here, I'll make that motion.
okay,
I had one question, so.
okay, second, okay, so for discussion, you had a question?
Yeah, and I don't remember if I asked you this last month, and I may have, so I apologize, but the job description on this, is it part of civil service? And we're not having to follow.
It's exempt.
It's exempt, so.
All of our positions are part of civil service, but many
But they're
of them are
exempt. Answers my question right there.
Great.
Thank you.
Dan, do you have a question?
No.
Okay. Donna?
What percentage will she be on site?
So we're saying this one is just the job description, but I'm happy to discuss both of them. But the schedule I planned is that, so she's 4 days, 7.5 hours. 3 of those days will be on site.
It's important that she's on site.
Yes.
More than, a good percentage of the time.
Well, she's, again, yeah, 75, the
Yeah,
commitment
that's
is
fair.
75%.
That's fair.
That's
Okay, I will accept, without any other questions, I'll accept a motion
You
to.
just called.
You already had it.
because you already moved it. So
Okay,
you just
all right,
called
so
it.
let's call the question then. All in favor of resolution number 2652?
Right.
Aye, okay, opposed? All right, resolution 2652 passes unanimously. Let me just remind myself, Mike, you moved that and Andrew seconded?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. All right, so resolution 2653, affirming appointment of agency counsel. And here I'll read this, whereas the Ulster County Resource Recovery Agency is engaged in solid waste management and recycling in Ulster County, and whereas the agency staff has conducted an extensive search for the agency counsel position, and whereas the executive director interviewed multiple candidates for said position and made a recommendation to the board of directors, and whereas the board of directors interviewed Nancy Lamb for the agency counsel position and concurred with the executive director's recommendation, now therefore it be resolved that Ulster County Resource Recovery Agency Board of Directors hereby affirms the executive director's decision to appoint Nancy Lamb as agency counsel. And be it further resolved, the executive director is hereby authorized to take all steps necessary to implement the same, and that this resolution shall take effect immediately. Any discussion?
Move.
Yep.
I'll make the motion.
Okay,
Second,
okay. Any discussion?
she starts tomorrow.
Starts tomorrow, assuming.
Assuming, better take that vote.
Right,
Yes.
okay. All righty, I'll call the question. All in favor of resolution 2653?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, opposed? All right. Congratulations
I will
to
notify her
and
tonight. Be
congratulations.
here in 9 a.m.
Great, yes, well, good. It's been a long time coming, and I'm glad we have someone who's going to be, I think, quite good at the job. Okay, resolution 2654, authorizing and approving revisions to agency policy procurement. To agency procurement policy. And we have it in front of us, so I won't read it out loud. I'll accept the motion, discussion for this,
I'll make it.
okay? Second, thank you.
Can I walk through the
Yes,
board
you
on
should.
kind of?
Yeah, because
Yeah,
Tim
you said it, yeah.
sent me the original, but I was having trouble sort of putting them side by side.
Yeah, so I mean, part of the reason for doing this is that the current procurement policy, which is available online, basically was I don't even know if it was a PDF of an old WordPerfect document with a later years addendum. The policy and the addendum conflicted. There was no way for me to do a red line of this, so that's why I didn't send one. That's how I would normally update a policy, is send you all the red line version. The major changes, so there was a recycling section that really was unreadable, and probably when the 1980s, when it was created, was easily read or made sense, but had exceptions that were like too small for us to, I mean, basically, I think it was 10 or 15% increase in like recycling paper meant we didn't have to buy recycling paper. I will come to the board in July or August with a sustainable/green procurement policy that we can have as an amendment or an addition to this, similar to what the county's green procurement policy is. I think working with the recycling outreach team will be more effective. So that section is just out. There was the next change They had to do with the thresholds, like the numbers were like 0 to 300 was in the discretion of the exec, like they were very, very low thresholds. They were lower than when I was the director of purchasing with the county, which was now 9 or 10 years, almost 9 or 10 years ago. And so these are increasing the thresholds. So for general purchase of commodities and equipment and goods, up to 5,000 is the discretion of the department director or the executive director. So Angelina, Tim, or Charlie, or myself. 5,000 to 9,999 is awarded at the discretion of the executive director. Anything over 10,000 requires 3 written quotes, and anything over 20,000 is general municipal law. We have to go out to bid. As far as construction and services and public works, it's up to 10,000, 99999, awarded at discretion of the executive director from 10,000 to 34,999. 3 vendor submitted quotes, over 35, we have to do public works. I changed some of the exceptions to, again, modernize some of the language. So it said that we could purchase, if you actually go to 17, piggybacking off of municipal contracts, it only gave Ulster County. I broadened that to allowing us to piggyback off of any municipal contract that's in our best interest. Cooperative procurement, it only gave us the ability to do the National Joint Powers Alliance, which was something probably, again, back in the 80s or 90s when this policy was initially created. That might have been the only purchasing cooperative. There's several others now. And so if it's in our best interest to piggyback off of a purchasing cooperative, we say that. And didn't change anything with conflict of interest. I mean, I might have cleaned up a word or two other than that, but no other substantive changes.
Did you look into or has this board ever discussed best value as an option? I don't know if the board members are familiar with it. I could give a 30-second description. So the way best value is allowed, if you, with a municipality, you have to adopt a local law. With an agency, I'm sure you would just put it in your procurement policy. It states that, because under municipal law, you either have to accept the lowest bid, lowest responsible bid, which is, responsible is very subjective. So with best value, when you're going out for a certain purchase, in your RFP, you set a criteria for how it will be scored. And the way we did it in our town is each board member would score the RFPs individually on a 0 to 10 basis, or 0, and you do an averaging of the scores of the board members, and you set criteria of, if it's below this, it's thrown out. And what it does is sometimes the cheapest may not always be the best in a long range thing, but it does take specific language. It does take a certain amount of work. Somebody has to coordinate it all. Somebody has to write the RFP with that. The board members then have to score them. It's certainly more complicated. But we found we got better products with that ability. Now, I don't know with an agency, I'm assuming we have the same ability.
You would have the same ability. I'll just say, so I think, I was the director of purchasing for Ulster County for 5 years. One of our big pushes when I first started was to pass a local law to allow us to do best value. Because best value is not, awarding something like a light bulb on the basis of best value is not the same as a professional service. So these are not requests for proposals. These are called best value solicitations. It's very scripted by the state comptroller how you can do it.
Okay.
And we never actually did a best value. In the 3 years subsequent to my local law, we never actually did a best value evaluation. Now we use for professional services. I have RFPs out all the time. Which is not going to lowest responsible bidder, but that's 104 based on our procurement manual. Okay. I'm not against using best value, and the reason I gave the light bulb is because, it seems silly, but that actually really is a good example of something you should, like, if I go out to the lowest responsible bidder for light bulbs, I might buy a light bulb that is gonna burn out in 9 months. If you do a best value solicitation, you can look at other factors and you'll get more energy efficient light bulbs.
Yeah, but if you write the specification that it has to last X amount, like it depends on,
You can put it in your.
you want, if you have your
In your-
specification, then
in
it
your
has to
bid
meet this criteria, and then the lowest responsive bidder meets the criteria, then it pretty much takes out all this other, but that means you have to put the time into developing the bid spec.
Yeah.
And you
so
have to
that's
make sure
fine,
that you're
but-
not targeting those bid specs to
Yeah,
one or
because
two
they'll provide
specific
it, they'll
brands.
provide it to you, but that's up to the ethics of the
Yeah.
procurement
Sure.
people, so, and that's what this is, the whole it's trying to, make things so that there's not,
Sorry. Best value is not normally used for commodities, more so it's used, or, things like light bulbs. It's used more, to some degree for services, which
but
are,
we do that,
yeah.
don't we?
Yeah, well, we probably do, but, certainly though, there could be other, if we were buying a large piece of equipment or something, unless we got very, very specific in our specs,
We were pretty specific in our specs.
Yeah,
We get very
yeah.
specific in our specs.
Yeah, it was
I'm
just,
not sure that this is a good idea. for
no, I was just throwing it out as to see if it was considered. It just popped into my head today, and, I'm fine with moving forward with what's here. I just wanted to have the conversation, so.
I do have a few comments, if you don't mind. Okay, so, now you mentioned that you're gonna do an amendment to this already, or whatever terminology.
Or a separate sustainable
so
purchasing.
is there, should we postpone this for that?
I don't
mean,
think
why?
so, cause I think, I think getting this in a shape that's readable, which I don't think the current policy on our website is that readable.
There's some
It is
legality with that
controversial.
too, I think you have to have PDFs that are,
Well, we're supposed to do something every year, we're supposed to review it, the last change was 2020.
It's supposed to be.
I
reviewed
would
for
recommend
organizational meeting, yeah.
passing this and then allowing us a month or two to, probably 2 months to put in the green sustainability.
also related though, just related to postponing for legal review, it seems like you might wanna wait till council's on board and have, her review it as well.
Well, except that our executive director used to be the director of purchasing and an attorney himself. So I just would think we have good legal eyes, is what I'm saying.
Okay, so I'm just reading down my comments, appreciate that. It says here, adoption, resolution by vote of at least, is that supposed to be 3 to 5 or 3/5?
Where are you at?
Standardization, section 4. Is that 3 of 5 members, or is it 3/5?
At least 3 of 5 members.
So if we increase our membership, does that,
So
I mean,
if it
do you wanna
goes-
make this some
You could
kind
just
of
say at least the
a
majority.
simple majority? Like, is there some standard language that we could put in there that eliminates the number of people that are on the
Just
board?
say
You have
majority.
I forget the word, when you have,
Simple majority?
no, what's the word we use when?
Supermajority.
No.
Majority plus one?
3 out of 5 is what? Is
Quorum.
Quorum. That's
But
it.
that's
But
not
that's
it.
not the
Quorum
right
is
term,
just so you
it's
can
a
have a
majority.
meeting. Majority is the word.
Okay.
That's
Well, I would
the
do
majority of members, or whatever you
Okay.
want, it's the same, means the same thing, but that would eliminate that confusion there.
Yeah.
Bid spec,
I didn't change this at all, so
Yeah, I think we should make that change personally. We're
that
saying
part, yeah.
by a vote of at least,
I mean, I think the intent was to
Not
be
even
higher
at
than a
least.
single majority, even though at 3/5 it is, but like, if you had 10, 9 members, 3/5 of that, you'd be required to have probably,
also he's
6
saying you're
votes.
supposed to have 60%
Majority plus
Right.
greater than majority.
right.
so what do we want it to be?
It's not majority plus one vote, that would be 4.
So why don't we say 2/3 majority, or we could say a supermajority, like,
Does
again,
2/3 work with the 5?
Well, but if it changes, it's just
3/5.
a minimum of.
3/5 is
6/10.
that doesn't fit in the number that we have now.
60% is what 3/5
Yeah,
is.
6
Yeah.
tenths, yeah.
So why don't we go with 60%? That's what it is now, right? 3/5.
so instead of 3/5, 60%.
And if it increases, if it's a
Change it.
if it's not, if it doesn't,
If it's not divisible, you have to have one more
one
than
more
what it
than,
is,
yeah,
which is
yeah, exactly.
It's a
So
simple majority.
just say of at least 60%, I would say, instead of 3/5. And that solves if the numbers change.
Everybody agrees to that amendment? and I'll change it.
We go through them all and we could just adopt them all.
Don still
Material-
has some more
I still have some
comments.
more. Materials or supplies more than $20,000 may be awarded to the lowest. Is that consistent with some of these other things you were mentioning?
Where, yeah? Yeah, oh, on the
Same
same
one.
one.
It says materials or supplies of more than $20,000 may be awarded to the lowest responsive bidder. Is that consistent with some of
That's
these other
state
things
municipal
here?
law.
That statement is.
Is what?
That's New York State.
That's
State
general
law.
municipal
Okay,
law.
yeah, that's what I thought.
And if you go to, 20,000 or over is required lowest,
Is that's
that's the same there.
it's the same
For commodities, which is what this is.
for commodities? Okay. Limitation for general. Okay. I circled here. I'm sorry, it was 2 days ago I read this, but this is section 9, reimbursement of the agency of cost of food and non-alcoholic drinks within limits. What are the limits? I mean, normally these procurement policies list out the reimbursement amounts for
Pull up the website, because I believe
It's the.
we have it in another policy, like,
For meals?
For meals.
First employees, it's scaled up, I believe it's up to $25 for dinner reimbursement, $15 for
Is it
lunch,
based on the-
I
the-
think
$10.
it's based on the states.
Is
Like
it
the
based on the
states that are-
IRS?
Yes.
It's
Yeah,
in,
based on
within
the
that.
IRS reimbursement.
So then instead of within limits established by the agency, it should refer back to another policy or to, whatever. It's just unclear to me.
Yeah, again, some of this stuff I didn't touch. So this is your current policy, but we can.
I mean, is there any way, well, let me go over the rest of mine and maybe we do postpone it until next month. I guess, on the next section, which is 13, purchase of commodities, equipment, and goods, I circled item C, minimum of 3 written quotes awarded by the discretion of the executive director, not the board.
If you want to, I mean, that's not what I have it in here as. Again, this is not like getting one quote, which is what the lower one is.
Okay.
If you want to have a resolution for every, like you receive the purchases and the expenditures. Any purchase under $20,000, if you want that to come to the board, I mean, you're gonna have more resolutions than you have now.
I remember talking about it in the past, and it was unclear. I remember asking, well, what makes it come to the board? And we didn't know at the time, so,
The
I
other
don't know.
problem is we meet once a month.
Right.
And
It's gonna
that
hold
could
things up.
certainly hold things up. I mean, my feeling is we give the executive director the day-to-day operations and that amount, that goes back to what Mark was saying for the 20,000 in that other section. That's New York State law.
So anything over 20
Right.
has to go to
Right.
lowest responsible bidder unless it meets one of the exceptions. And so like that doesn't come to the board either because as long as it's something that's budgeted for,
okay.
if I have to go out to bid on it, I don't have discretion there.
Yeah.
He can't buy something that doesn't have funding in the budget.
Right.
But if there's funding in the budget,
We frequently approve things that are under 20,000 though, by resolution.
There's been a couple things that I thought were more controversial that I wanted to have input from the board on that were maybe more discretionary within purchase or other things that I brought resolutions for the board for that purpose, asking the board to weigh in.
Procurement for section 14, procurement of public works and construction projects. I had in my mind it was $20,000, but that might be the other category.
General
Is it
municipal law says 35 and
for
over
public
requires
works?
a bid.
Okay. Section, I have a few more, I apologize. Section 15, a good faith effort shall be made to obtain the required number of proposals and quotations. This seems kind of loose to me. What's the definition of a good faith?
Yeah, so sometimes we will reach out to 5 to 10 vendors and 2 come back with bids and we might have a stack of emails that say, I'm not interested in bidding, and then we use those as justification that, if we were ever to get audited, that would cover that requirement. I hear what you're saying as far as that is loose. I think you're already saying a minimum of 3 written quotes. It would be weird to say a minimum of 3 refusals or like there may be products that.
How about this, just saying that, and I'd have to do the wording in my head here, but the executive, instead of saying a good faith effort, a record of,
An attempt to
of
five.
solicitation of a minimum, well, since only 3 are required, you would say, you know, the required number. If we want it to be 5, then we should up the numbers up top.
So at least like records of at least
I think there should be a
solicitations.
record
What
rather
if-
than just say
A good faith effort with records kept, showing, you know, a good faith effort shall be made with records kept to show attempt to obtain the required number of proposals.
I'll just give you an example of why I think the language didn't say this, and I think this is also language that I really didn't adjust much,
Yeah.
but I think makes sense. What if there's an item that really doesn't have 3 vendors? There's something that we need
Yeah.
that's not sole source, cause maybe there's 2 people, but it's close to it. And we get the 2 quotes of the 2 vendors that we're aware of, and we go out on BidNet and even put it out there, and we still get 2 quotes. If we say the required number of 3 like we have to keep a record of at least 3 attempts.
So how about just saying, you know, a documented record of, you know.
What about a documented good faith
Yeah,
effort?
a good faith effort shall be documented or something.
Yeah.
That's all.
It just, I hear what Donna's saying, is saying good faith leaves it very
Pretty
vague.
broad.
Saying it has to be documented, you know, you can document that there's only 2 vendors who carry this.
Or just another idea, this
Yeah.
policy
Yeah.
probably could use a little more work, in my opinion, but it would be great if there was a definition section where you could, instead of having that kind of wordiness in here and quotes, good faith, we could have definitions, good faith equals this or this or this, you know, like if it had a definition section, it would help
Would
us
there-
be a more robust policy.
Is there any problem that you
We can postpone it.
envision if we
I'm
postpone
we're
it
fine.
till next month?
Yeah.
So let me, I
Cause I could,
Yeah. this is.
I've written about half a dozen policies.
So just my other edits, B, except, and it's got quotation marks there, I don't know why they belong there.
Where you at? Oh,
Same section.
yep, no, okay.
Same section, certified minority and women-owned businesses an exception.
That's your
Yeah.
state.
So they totally, if you have a certified minority or women-owned business, they're totally exempted from any kind of process? Is that what this is saying?
No, that's
So,
not what it's saying.
well, that's not, so in 2020, the board, the only amendment to this policy was to exempt certified minority-owned businesses from this solicitation. So you're allowed to do that in New York State. There isn't a lot of information on what exactly, to your point, if we're gonna make some changes, maybe I can look at. Again, this would be more like along the lines of if something costs more than 20,000, instead of having to go to the lowest responsible bidder, we could contract with a certified minority and women-owned business, but maybe we'd get multiple quotes instead. And it would have to be within a.
Maybe it's 10 times the price, you know, like I'm
I
not,
mean, I
I'm
think
not
some of
comfortable
this is like,
blanket.
You can't be a specific prescription in a policy that's so strict, like, but yes, maybe there can be
That
some.
seems,
Maybe
and-
instead of, maybe instead of exceptions, that becomes one of the bullet
a
point
definition of what that means and when that would be accepted. Because there's not for anything, but there's a lot of companies that will certify in that category that really aren't. And they
No,
put it in the
yeah.
wife's name, or there's things that make it, and now, and it's fine, everybody believes in that, I think, but I think we need a more rules or definitions on that particular item there, on when that would be an exception. Next one, I'm trying to go quickly, I'm sorry. The last paragraph on 6 purchases from other than lowest responsible offerer. Where formal bidding procedures are not required by laws or regulations, quotations are solicited when possible. I don't remember why I circled that, so I apologize.
Sorry, you're on what?
Right
6?
before 16, the sentence above that, I circled it and I don't remember why, so I apologize. Number 18, piggybacking. Cooperative is spelled incorrectly. And then it says piggybacking C, which is right above there. I think the word there should be the there, so it's just a typo. And then also section 19, conflict of interest.
No, it's there instead of saying his or her. So at the
One
next
says
monthly
his or
board
her and
meeting,
one
the
says
exact.
there, yeah, so I don't know, pick one and do one or the other.
I mean, so I'll just say that most municipalities have gone to there or they, as far as not giving pronouns to an executive director, so they move away from like even his slash
You're
her.
using both, I think, so it's just one or the other.
Okay, oh, I see what you're saying.
You know, I don't know, whatever one you decide is better.
Okay,
And then conflict of interest, this section just needs it's a little giving examples here, it's not necessary. So I think we should, in the conflict of interest, state what it is and not give strange examples here, it just seems odd to me. And then also, I think we have a conflict of interest, policy, maybe it's this ethics policy, so does this conflict of interest really just need to refer back to the ethics policy instead of keeping two sets of books on the same kind of topic, would be my suggestion on that.
okay,
Right, so I just think proposing that we postpone, it needs a little more work, and I apologize for that. I hope it's not gonna hold you back by any means, but, I mean, let's do it once and do it once right, instead of having to do it two times in a row.
Do not apologize for all the good work you put in.
Oh, thank you, thank you.
so motion.
So I'll amend my motion to table it until next month.
Okay,
I'm
second,
second.
okay, all right, all in favor of tabling it till next month?
Well, so,
Or to-
hold on.
Sorry,
Hold
So
on,
you can either
hold on.
postpone it for a month or you can table it, and then it has to have a motion to come off the table.
Oh, we'll
Alright.
postpone it for a month.
so if we just
We
postpone,
can,
okay.
Or why
Are you
don't
gonna
you
be
just
ready?
table, why don't you just table it, and then I'll let you know when I'm
And
ready.
then you put it back on.
Take a motion.
So you get you a
Okay.
little more.
I can-
Motion to table,
Yep,
I
Mike
can
made
give you a
it,
hand
Andrew
on that
second.
too.
Yeah.
If you'd like.
happy to have you
Written
look
like
at it.
three or
It seems
four.
like it needs a little,
does.
more maturity.
Is there a second on?
Yeah, Andrew second.
Andrew,
All right, all in favor of, tabling this? Aye.
Aye.
Aye, okay, thank you. And, okay, all right, now, well, I'll read this and then we'll let Mark explain the resolution, I won't read the whole thing. Yeah, resolution 2655, approving the second amendment to the collective bargaining agreement with Teamsters Local 445.
Yeah, so we are.
I'll make a motion for discussion.
Okay, and second, please?
I'm second.
All right,
So on the books, we have in the CBA, there is anyone who's serving their 1 year probationary period has a 10% reduction in their wages. Operations management approached me on this a few weeks ago. On the same day, our shop steward also approached me on this. So I went to the business agent for the union and asked if they would be amenable to this because I think our top for drivers is like 27 an hour. We're already low. So when you're taking 10% off of that, you're talking about asking people to start at $25 an hour, where other driving positions in the region are over 30. So we're really just we've had 2 open vacant driver positions for several, like a year or more. I think since I've been the executive director, we've had 2 vacancies in the driver position. So, the union, business, agent was amenable and as I put in the resolution, has already signed off on this.
Oh,
I will say not all
Are we
staff,
allowed-
sorry, I will say not all staff are, because they had 10% reduced for long period, for a year, they're not all thrilled about this, but
Did they, are we allowed for discussion yet?
yes.
Okay, are they allowed to, no, I can't turn it. Are they qualified? Like, do they meet the job when they come in? It's like a class A or class B license or
Yes,
something like that? I never worked any place where you had a 10% reduction, so
I haven't either.
I don't, it sounds to me like hazing, and I can't even imagine, why we would have this in here.
Well, the probationary period is commonplace, but it's not.
Not at a
it's not
reduction
common-
of salary.
Exactly, that was.
Not at a reduction of
But that
salary.
was gonna be what.
I've never heard of it.
I never heard of it either, so to me, this
Term
is,
reduction.
and you
The
know,
starting salary,
is
be 10%
X.
less.
Like, why would you leave your job for a less, I don't know.
well, so
Better
then,
benefits would be the only reason.
But
I mean, the one thing I will say is we don't have like this step system, right? So your starting salary is essentially your salary in the CBA and then you get a longevity. But you get a longevity paid once a year, and it's not, so like, there's people who have been here for several years, they're getting a longevity, but they're not getting any increase in their hourly wages.
Well, the regular increase, the increase,
Through the
the annual
collective bargaining,
increase.
Collective bargaining.
Yes.
They're getting.
so that goes up, but they don't get a promotion.
right, but the
necessarily.
same person that comes in and starts the next year gets
It's that same
increase.
amount too.
Right.
But they get the longevity, what's that, a one-time payment?
It's a one-time payment at the beginning of the year, depending
That-
on
depending
how
on how
much.
many-
But you don't get it
Certain
until you're here
triggers.
for 5 years.
The first
and
one was probably 5, and yeah.
It's not.
See, actually, though, I find that the fairest way, because, my feeling was always that you shouldn't use salary as a longevity program. If you wanna pay a longevity, then pay the longevity separately, because then if you get somebody who's making, $8 more an hour than a person who's doing the same job, you really start to run into, a conflict, I have found. So, our town of Rochester, when I was there, our labor relationship consultant said equal pay for equal work, and do what we're doing. So I think that makes the most sense.
You could offer like safety rewards. You've been here 3 years, after 3 years, if you don't have any accidents and so forth.
Yeah, there's other
Well, but
ways.
there's the longevity. I mean, that's the only thing that I'll be
Can't do
careful
that
about.
anymore. That's not
That is,
passing.
you also find that people don't report.
Yeah, so we're not allowed to do that anymore.
Yeah,
Thank you.
and that also means different job titles have different.
Well, since we seem to have agreement, why don't we, I'll call the question on this, we don't seem to have any
You
trouble.
can't call a question. You just have to
But it's
ask
not a
them.
motion, he's just calling.
Well, but you have to vote on calling the question.
Right.
That's,
Okay,
so
alright,
it's
well, why
an
don't we vote on
improper
this?
language.
Thank you. Why don't we vote on resolution 2655? All in favor of approving resolution 2655? Aye.
Aye.
Okay, thank you.
And the last one.
Okay, resolution 2656, removing capital project 2505 countywide sanitary landfill from the 2025-2029 agency capital project plan. Accept a motion for discussion,
I'll make that motion.
okay? Second, please.
Go ahead, say.
You want me to second? I'll second.
All right, so you want to explain your point of view on this, please, Mark?
Yeah, I mean, I talked a little bit about it, that if, everybody knows that I feel like we need to identify someplace in the next 5 years. But I don't think it is accurate cost accounting, I don't think, when we have no idea, like, what we're gonna spend in the next 5 years on this, it's certainly not gonna be the 200 million that's slated right now in the capital project plan. And I know that's not what we're slated to spend in 25 to 29, but we should remove it, and then in the future, we should add it back on. The capital project plan is a living document anyway, that will be amended from year to year. We have no intent in moving this forward right now. We will have intent of doing something in the future, but it may not be a countywide sanitary landfill. It may be a regional disposal approach, like whatever the technology is, I think this sends the wrong signal.
So removing this sends the right signal.
Agree.
Any discussion among the board? All right, all in favor of resolution 2656?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, thank you. All right, new business, we have listed County Code 304 solid waste recycling.
We don't have any old and finished.
No old unfinished business.
Can I ask for a 5-minute recess before we do this?
Sure. All right, 5 minutes,
5 minutes?
and then we'll go right to executive session after that. So it's-
Bear with us, Jillian, we'll be back.
Oh, Jillian, I didn't even know you were there. Hi. Thank you for your patience.
We are gonna have,
Hello,
we are
yes,
gonna have
for
that
sure.
new business discussion when he comes back, whatever
Yeah,
that may be.
yes, yeah,
okay.
and then we'll go into executive session. Very tired, it takes you 2 tries to get out.
Oh, yeah.
Sucks getting old, doesn't it?
Sorry?
Sucks getting old, doesn't it?
You hit that age where from one day to the next, when you stand up, you grunt and you don't even know why, but you just suddenly start doing it.
Yeah, I made some serious mistakes in my recent life. I was a weightlifter,
Oh,
but, you know, not a bodybuilder, but I wanted to move poundage, right? And I was big. So, and that was only like 12, 15 years ago. I was pretty damn big. Doing some tree work with a friend of mine 3 years ago. And I decided I'll lift a 700-pound chunk of wood by myself and flip it back up to the road. Well, that sent me to two surgeries, and now my third back injection. Yeah, I ooh and ah once in a while.
8 o'clock? It's an early one for us.
So far, we're not done yet. Executive session could be long too. These sandwiches, these weren't wraps, the sandwiches were good.
they were very good.
Yeah, I like these better than wraps.
Yeah.
So how does it feel being the people everybody hates?
Why would they hate it?
Nobody hates me.
I don't mean everybody, but, you know, the decisions you make, you know, impact people.
It impacts everybody
Right.
in Ulster County, whether you're driving through or not. If
Right,
you-
that's
if
what
you
I'm saying,
stay dumb, you're involved with garbage,
Yeah.
or recycling.
When the tipping fee is $500 a ton, then everybody's really gonna hate us.
Well, no, that'll be financial incentive.
Then to do something different, I guess, yeah. Actually, it looks like there's an illegal dumping site right next to my house all of a sudden. So a
Really?
bunch of construction, yeah, to pull a DEC
Yeah.
on it.
Oh, earlier, like, right before you come
Yeah.
off on the left-hand side?
Yeah.
Well, it depends on which way you're coming, from Platicille or from Walkville. But
I was
yeah, it's
heading
like
east.
two down.
Heading
There's
east,
like,
it's on the left-hand
they're
side.
burying C and D and that right next to them, yeah. Did you see that?
Was there something, was there a building there before anything?
Might have been, yeah.
It
It
looked
would have
like
been kind of overgrown.
Yeah. Call the
Right in my
DEC,
own neighborhood.
call the DEC agents in China, I forget their names, but,
I told the DEC,
Oh, okay.
called the,
yeah, they show up, maybe you're lucky.
I sent an email, we called.
So let's resume.
So this was Andrew's request to put this on for new business.
Yeah, if, to me, the County Code 304, recycling and solid waste is really what I consider our contract, or the contract that we would operate by, because, and reading through it, I'm not a lawyer, but reading through it, it's very confusing, it needs to be updated. And I would suggest, I just made notes of different parts of it, but really you need to read it, it's only a few pages, not that many pages, to read through it carefully and see what you think, and see what we can approach the legislature to clarify or update that, in your opinion, to help us do our job, basically, is what it is. Because there's parts in it that aren't even relevant anymore. Speaking of relevancy, let's put it this way, there's a lot of parts in this that are ignored. Like the old contract that we have with the county, if you read through that and compare it to the new contract that we're gonna have with the county, maybe, there's paragraph after paragraph that's just completely ignored, nothing did it, everybody did it by a wink and a nod. And a lot of this, if you read the enforcement section, if you read the administrative hearing officer, it's all been done, but it hasn't been done. We need to really utilize this, in my opinion, to help us do our job, basically, is what I say, because it's just so, it's confusing. And like you have, one of the things is about the recycling containers. Well, I don't think the county hands out recycling containers anymore, does it? No, but it says you got, you know,
We did it, the agency did it at the very beginning.
in the very beginning, yeah, and there's a law about it, but
It should be revised, maybe it's a lower priority for us, but
I don't mean revising, I just mean it's in there, that's how to, you know, you can't, whatever you do with it.
we would have to kind of draft it up for them, and I don't know what the process is, but it is dated.
I think at some point,
Yeah, at
agency
some
council,
point,
once
yeah.
they get
Yeah,
in here and it may not be their top priority, there's contracts.
No, I
and other
understand,
things,
Yeah,
I
yeah, yeah.
understand.
But they can review it. If you all take a look at it, we
Yeah.
can put it as future agenda items, and
Right.
if you have recommended changes, they can look at it. They can bring recommended changes to you all that we can then take to, say, the Energy and Environment Committee.
Well, how about take it to the Law and Order Committee or whatever, the one that does the
Rules and-
law?
laws and rules.
Yeah,
I would prefer to go
both.
to Energy
Or
and
both.
Environment first, and then they
Yeah.
would send it to laws and.
okay.
yeah, to
But-
get the support, I think it is like probably a priority for us in 2026.
And the two questions I have is, and maybe Mike can answer this, can a municipal code enforcement officer enforce county laws?
No.
Only state and local municipal laws, right?
Because they work for the municipality. Now, state laws they can, but the state laws that are involved with,
Zoning and.
With zoning
And
and- yeah.
restrictions, so
yeah,
forth,
yeah,
yeah, like,
yeah. But they don't have any enforcement power, I don't believe, over county laws.
I'm not.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I asked the question at the town board meeting, and they got the same thing, they didn't know.
yeah, well, I'm
Only
pretty
because,
confident they don't.
only because our town is not, it's not necessarily town, they're having a problem that's peripheral to recycling, but is involved with recycling, that the zoning officer can take it basically as the 2-yard dumpsters, people are putting them right on the edge of the street, they're going to the road, so forth and so on. I tried to explain to the town board that, that they have to offer a recycling bin with a regular bin and stuff like that, and.
If they're ruining the road and it's a local road, the highway superintendent can get involved.
Well, yeah, there's a lot of different things, but,
Yeah.
basically, and just to go through it and read it, I mean, I'm not, like I said, I'm not a lawyer, and lawyers can say, well, this is exactly perfectly good.
I'm happy to take a shot at it, because I've written it off.
Well, I like Mark's plan, you know, we all take a look at it, we all make our suggestions, and
Yeah.
then we bring it
Agency
to,
council,
it's
we
recycling
might
and-
have to get settled in for that, but
It's 304 recycling and solid waste, the solid waste part really only has one part in it about the, wasn't the hearing officer, it was something else.
administrative officer.
No, and I forgot what it was, I didn't write it down here.
Is this where we could flow control recyclables and C&D?
No.
No, that would have to be a standard.
Yeah, and it's also got information about the, 30431 tells you about the recycling oversight committee, which is what they've said is supposed to be done, has never really been done.
Is this the?
Flow control was an amendment of 304.
Was it amended?
Yeah, I think that,
Okay.
yeah, so, I mean, if we wanna push that, which I think might be prudent for us, especially the C&D, if that's, or maybe the tonnages
Well,
or
We're
get
gonna
it
get
lost.
push back,
Well,
but
whatever.
whatever.
Well, I mean, and legislatures, the legislature's saying, oh, they want control over us and so forth and so on. Well, this is how I think that, this is what the laws they make, like if they make a law that you can't put, like the plastic that they're talking about, you can't do that, well, that affects us because maybe that's something less that we don't recycle or handle in garbage, it reduces the garbage, so.
I do know there's a legislator who in July, and I haven't seen it yet, but I've been told that there will be a resolution repealing flow control for LWH.
You are shitty.
Russ?
I don't think there's any support, but there will be a legislator who is submitting that resolution.
So what happens if it did pass?
I mean, they would be shooting themselves in the foot. Let's say they decided they wanted to create a county department instead of the agency, they'd lose
We
all
still need
control.
flow control.
Why don't we wait and see if it happens?
Yeah.
I
Yes,
know
you
it's
know-
coming because I've talked to that
Right,
person.
but I don't
I'm not
think
gonna
let's-
say publicly,
let's-
but-
It's 8:15.
But it's also not gonna happen.
Let's
So-
wait, let's wait
I
and see
agree.
the news.
It's 8:15 and we
But I-
still have an executive session, so.
Okay.
I would support Andrew's assessment
just-
that we should be looking at this at some point
Oh,
and
absolutely.
then making
Yeah.
it broad enough
We can
that,
keep this as old business.
Right,
Yeah.
and when you go through it, it also mentions other laws like the recycling law, you can go and look those up too, which I didn't do, but put it all together and see what we can, make it clarify it so that we know who's responsible for what. so forth, and how to proceed.
It's dated. It's
Everything is
20
under
25
304.
Yeah.
There's the recycling section, there's the solid waste section, 304 is the entire.
It's both things.
But it's not very robust.
No, no, but anyway, that's all I wanted to do on new business, because Erica's not here, and we can task our new, if everybody looks at it, you guys.
That's what we're gonna do.
Yeah.
I like it. I appreciate you bringing her up, and I think we have a good plan moving forward to get that revised. And
Yeah,
it'll happen.
put some pressure back on the legislature.
Yeah.
That's my opinion.
All right, well, so that concludes, new business. And so, I'll accept a motion for, adjourning this meeting and going into executive session.
Not
Not
adjourning.
adjourning,
Oh,
just.
No,
a
Just
motion
going into
to-
executive.
For these
Going into
purposes.
All right,
You gotta
for the
read the
purposes of
purposes.
discussing a real estate transaction, seeking legal advice, and future employment of an individual.
I'll make the motion, but, and if we got a second, I just wanna clarify something, so.
sure.
Somebody's got a
So a
second
second?
first.
Oh, my second.
Yeah.
Okay.
So the real estate transaction, because earlier in the executive report, you talked about the RIC and said we'll talk about that executive session. We can only talk about real estate and the lease itself. The general topic of the RIC should be done in public. I'm hypersensitive to what is and can't be talked about, so I just want to be sure we're only talking about the lease itself.
The financial aspect that would affect the.
Yeah, that's,
Yeah.
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 Well, not even the financial, a particular lease,
Yeah,
Yes.
okay.
because, yeah, financial is also open,
Okay.
yeah.
So all in favor of going into executive session? Aye.
Aye.
All right, sir, I'm afraid at this point, we're gonna have to ask you to leave the week.
That's fine.
Thank you for coming and thank you for staying.
Come back anytime.
Joe, one quick question, do you have the recycling meeting every month?
Yes,
The zero waste meeting?
Yes.
yes.
Yeah.
Good.
What you can do is go on the county legislature's.
I don't do computers.
You don't have a computer at all, huh? You don't have a cell phone, but I'm close.
Yeah,
I have a cell phone, so.
You can
Well,
Well, sir,
you
you
have a
know,
cell phone.
you might call because,
call the agency,
Yeah.
but generally, yes, it's right prior to
Okay,
bringing
yeah.
the.
yeah, but
And
I
it's
was
the
gonna,
second- The
recommend
second
call.
Thursday of the month.
I appreciate everything you guys do.
Okay.
Thank you.
I was actually pleasantly surprised.
Okay.
Well, thank you.
Thank you. Have a great
Gillian, you can stay, but you can also go.
I'll make the motion.
Okay,
We're
you,
just-
I'm,
Yeah. Have a
I'm
good
cleared
night.
to go.
All right, nice
Okay.
meeting you.
So,
So motion
Okay,
to
take care,
exit
everyone.
executive session at 8:40.
Well, wait, we've already done that. Now we're just back.
Well, but no, we need to do it on.
all right, so all in favor of exiting executive session? Okay,
You
and
do
at
need to do the
8:48,
motion.
we're out of executive session.
What's next, adjourning?
Motion to adjourn.
Second?
A second?
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, we are
Okay.
adjourned. Great, and we
Let me know when you're clear.
closed at 8:49.
And what was the motion? Who made the motion to adjourn?
I have it.
I made,
Mike.
Mike and Andy.
Donna,
Oh, Mike and Donna, right?
Donna second.
Yeah.